When I think about resilience, I think about people managing through adversity and summoning the internal capacity to come through with a renewed sense of self-efficacy that actually motivates them to go even further. When I think about what this means for organizations, how might they demonstrate resilience? How will they be all the more successful because of it? I think of the Apollo 13 space mission. Watch with me.
Apollo 13 launched April 11, 1970, with mission commander Jim Lovell, command module pilot Jack Swigert, and lunar module pilot Fred Hayes. 2 days into a 3-day journey to the lunar surface, disaster struck.
Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here. Houston, we've had a problem.
A malfunction in an oxygen tank caused the service module to rupture, losing 2 of the 3 fuel cells and venting oxygen into space. Without electricity, the astronauts were cold and quickly running out of water and breathable air. The work of countless individuals in mission control and all through Johnson Space Center kept that problem from becoming a disaster. Rising carbon dioxide levels could have proven fatal to the 3 astronauts. A team of engineers at Mission Control designed a new CO2 scrubber from spare parts inside the spacecraft, literally fitting a square peg into a round hole. Everyone at Mission Control worked around the clock, constantly innovating, never giving up, and kept the astronauts alive. Through all the challenges and difficulties, they succeeded. The entire world held its breath until Lovell, Swigert, and Hayes splashed down in the Pacific Ocean on April 17, 1970. Through ingenuity, intelligence, and unparalleled teamwork, NASA turned tragedy into triumph.
April 17th was the 51st anniversary of the Apollo 13 mission. Houston, we have a problem are words that we all know. The resilience of each individual on the NASA team and the organizational resilience in place allowed them to make this a successful failure and to move forward. What can we learn from NASA and other organizations that have built resilience into their core as the world is undergoing unpredictable, unprecedented, and increasingly rapid change? The pandemic put businesses through rigorous existential tests of resilience. It was a rude awakening. Literally overnight, consumer behavior changed. Whole industries imploded, shut down, or were forced to change their business models. Our healthcare system and our first responders were overwhelmed. We went to fully remote work for those who could. Others had to adapt overnight to vastly different, often hostile working conditions. Essential workers started getting sick. Our schools went remote. Childcare became unpredictable. By April, 2.6 billion people had gone into lockdown, and places of employment for 81% of the global workforce were fully or partially closed. Employees and their work were reassigned based on new customer needs and behaviors, as well as supply chain and product distribution realities. All of these at great speed and without the traditional strategic planning processes. Yes, some organizations were unprepared and weakened, and they fell behind. But those who were prepared came out stronger. We saw that as the world changed under our feet, resilient organizations had the flexibility to successfully adapt. We all wish the last 16 months were an anomaly, but they weren't. The pandemic was just the latest in a long line of disruptions, which tell us that there is a need for a new approach. From cybersecurity threats to geopolitical uncertainty, from social unrest to climate change to ongoing technological transformation. Catastrophic events will occur more frequently and will also be less predictable, unfolding faster and in more varied ways. Just in the past few months, as we thought we've seen light at the end of the tunnel with the pandemic, we've also seen several new destabilizing events, and by all accounts, we can predict more. Cybersecurity and geopolitical threats are linked. Since December, the US has experienced 3 major cyber attacks. The first, SolarWinds, attack on the US government systems, then the Colonial Pipeline hack causing fuel shortages, and most recently, the JBS attack impacting meat production. All of these are what are believed to be criminal nation-state connected organizations. Social and racial justice issues remain urgent. The George Floyd Justice and Policing Act is still in front of the Congress. Heightened awareness of the economic inequality and implicit biases in our systems, and social media and fueled conspiracy theories. These are an ongoing destabilizing force. Climate change has accelerated. Last year, 4 million acres were sacrificed to wildfires, twice the previous record, which was in 2018. In 2020, there were more named storms than any year on record, claiming the lives of dozens of people and costing tens of billions of dollars. And the 21 hurricane season is predicted to be even worse. Transformational technologies are disrupting behaviors and industries at a rapidly accelerating pace. These are adding change in the way we work, the way we shop, bank, the way we learn. We have cryptocurrencies and blockchain, disruptive financial innovations. AI and enhanced deep learning capabilities are reshaping and upending many job roles. And going one step further, brain-machine interfaces previously used only in medicine, for example, cochlear implants with nanotechnology and neuroscience. These may start being applied to work and augmenting cognitive faculties. Elon Musk put a chip implant in a monkey, a Fitbit in your skull, making it possible for the monkey to control a joystick on a video game by thinking about moving his hands. And of course, the pandemic is not over globally. We still have to face a changed way of working as we return to site. And at some level, we all know there is always the possibility of the next one. So, while we have seen countless examples of success and heroism combating each of these crises, and I have no doubt that we will continue to overcome, this rapid and disruptive change puts immense stress on the global workforce and can overwhelm human adaptive capacity. Experts are predicting that 20% of the population, 20% will have PTSD as a result of the pandemic. Workplace disputes and violence have risen. Burnout has become a very serious workplace risk and challenge. By June of 2020, our data at meQuilibrium showed that our members reporting 34% increased work stress and a 9% increase in burnout, which by December of 2020 had increased another 52%. It has become very clear that people and organizations must develop organizational resilience, the ability to withstand unpredictable threat or change and emerge stronger. The question is no longer why we need to be resilient, whether we need to be resilient, but how to build resilience, and not just as individuals, but as organizations and perhaps as a society. And what exactly does it take to achieve adaptive capacity at scale to overcome turbulence? So we founded meQuilibrium around the understanding that mental health is the foundation to performance. Our founding vision was to make mental health and agility practical, accessible, engaging, and asynchronous. Resilience in people and organizations was to be that first line of defense. Being in the resilience business, we quickly realized last year that COVID-19, the pandemic, was going to be both a crisis and a mass trauma event with huge ongoing implications for the workforce. We immediately did several things to help our customers, predicting the impact on workforce emotional well-being and providing to leaders population risk assessments for anxiety, depression, and burnout. We identified workforce segments who were prepared to face the challenges and were agile, and those who were not. We delivered in the moment prescriptive COVID relevant support to help stabilize the workforce and prepare them for both the next phase of the pandemic and the future which undoubtedly was change. We prepared managers and leaders to address the problem, starting with insights, but also giving them the know-how to address fear, uncertainty, overload, and burnout amongst their teams. And at the same time, we supported their efforts to communicate openly about fear and uncertainty, to reinforce transparency and help them build trust. So what did we learn from this? In a nutshell, we learned that organizational resilience requires that the entire system have the agility and adaptive capacity essential to surviving and thriving in increasingly challenging contexts. We saw firsthand on the job, there is a clear symbiotic connection between individual resilience and the organizational-wide resilience. Both are essential. This is more than the sum of the parts. There is indeed a multiplier effect. In combination, they accomplish more than they would alone. Let me go deeper with a few of our learnings. First, resilience matters. Your initial resilience level influences the experience during times of crisis. Our members with the highest resilience levels at baseline reported significantly better outcomes compared to those with low or moderate resilience, both before and after the pandemic began. And resilience is learnable. These transferable basic skills of resilience, emotion control, empathy, self-efficacy, optimism, they make a difference. And active use of meQ softened the impact of COVID-19 on well-being. Across every outcome, from job motivation, from job stress to motivation, job motivation from sleep to burnout, the members of meQ who were highly engaged had the best results during the pandemic. In a number of cases, we are seeing that our customers with the highest resilience scores at baseline fared better than the overall Dow Jones Industrial Average, beating it by 116% over the last 2 years in performance. Next, deep data analysis is key to assessing and monitoring behavioral health risks and performance risks and impairments such as work-life balance, isolation, grief, and trauma. The data, our member data, showed that women and workers under the age of 40 have been hardest hit, impacting motivation, their focus, their sleep. Women suffering a 10 times greater increase than men. Managers with low resilience were at high risk for PTSD, and they are struggling. How does this data help you in your business? Here's an example. A life science company, a customer of ours with many employees still in the lab, acted swiftly based on our risk assessment data to address burnout and immediately provide more company-wide PTO for employees. The data drove home to their C-suite that yesterday's PTO policies were an existential threat to their business. Next, a perception of employer support served as a critical buffer against threats to employee well-being. We found that employees who felt well supported by their employer had 90% better outcomes during the pandemic than those who did not. An example, a customer in the insurance industry that had always supported workforce well-being and resilience immediately amplified that support as soon as the shape and scope of the crisis became clear. Senior leaders used town halls as a megaphone to reinforce the company's commitment to supporting all employees with flexibility to manage work and home life, with tools for managers to assist them in managing remotely, surveys to keep on top of workforce sentiment. One of the key outcomes of this coordinated support altogether, a 40% reduction in reported stress by meQ members at that company who joined in 2020. So beyond helping the individual, organizations which broadly prepared their workforces with core resilience skills and operationalized resilience had the agility and the readiness to adapt to radical change and to innovate. And last, the cultures that encouraged and promoted an ethos and a vision of resilience, they thrive the best. Let me give you a few more examples. These are real stories from real customers, exemplars of organizational resilience. A manufacturer was able to switch major production lines to much needed PPE and then revert back to their core products all in a matter of months. A technology company well known for anticipating fast changing consumer buying preferences was able to leverage this competitive advantage as well as their mindset of agility, not only to address the pandemic, but to address a major climate event and disrupting production during that time. During 2020, this company actually gained market share despite these once-in-a-lifetime setbacks, applying focus to employee well-being and performance at the same time. A major consumer products company packaged goods that had actively been communicating about and championing resilience and agility in its culture, was able to successfully shift employees and production processes to meet sudden changes in consumer behaviors caused by the pandemic. Their employees had to rapidly adopt new practices to safely manage product distribution and delivery in extremely risky conditions. Instead of shrinking, withdrawing, they stayed ahead. They were able to put a resilient and agile mindset into their operating practices because it had become part of their culture, so that they were able to rapidly fill changing market needs, from going from institutional demand to B2C demand. And they also had the data to respond to workforce well-being and productivity risks, and in so doing, keep their people safe. Last, the crisis underscored what HR leaders have known: that workforce performance and well-being are interconnected and interdependent, and they are essential to managing through crisis. And workforce resilience is the key to that performance. Everyone is talking about resilience right now, and with good reason. When we think about the extent to which we will have to rebuild and reinforce in the coming years, and at the same time, the degree of change and instability we will face, resilience is the new imperative. And while organizations must indeed develop financial resilience, technical resilience, business model resilience, and reputational resilience, never has it been so critical that they develop organizational resilience, that they foster a diverse, empowered workforce, support everyone to work at their full capacity and to be at their best, to bake strength and flexibility into everyone's thinking and into your culture. So people ask me, how do you do that? Based on our learnings, we have identified at meQuilibrium 4 strategic pillars of organizational resilience. Let me take you through them. Primary preparedness is the first. In today's business climate, with the constant overload and transformation that people are facing, the entire workforce needs a universal primary set of skills to protect them and prepare them. It needs to be asynchronous for them, best delivered on a digital platform, not in the classroom, not one and done, like primary school basics or like primary colors. I like to call this primary preparedness. We want to create a herd immunity effect, a critical mass of understanding and awareness. Skills like empathy, focus, problem solving, and self-confidence. These are the skills that optimize potential, that enhance well-being, increase agility, and protect against burnout risk. Developing these skills underpins a sense of purpose. They foster connection to values and make it possible for people to be inclusive. Skills that are uniquely human skills, adaptable from job role to job role. And with them, we set people up for success. We protect them from consequences of not adapting. Second, risk detection and intervention. Hand in hand with developing the protective, preventive skills in people, we must protect the workforce with early risk detection and preemptive action. Look, the CDC has stated that 90% of our healthcare spend is on mental health related chronic conditions or correlated chronic conditions and stress-related disorders. As such, early risk detection and intervention is our best first line of defense, providing an early warning system, highlighting potential health and performance problems with data and with analytics. Given the magnitude of the risk factors today, this is no longer a 3% problem. You need an intelligent navigation system which identifies and triages your people based on their acuity risk and delivers the right resource at the right time from across your HR ecosystem. Thirdly, cultural commitment. Personally, as a leader, if I have learned anything in the last year, I have learned that culture and desired behaviors are mutually reinforcing, and that communication, trust, and performance are a three-legged stool. Beyond caring for the individual, we have to take steps to bake this into our culture. How do we do this? We must approach this with an organization-wide commitment to resilience. Our customers and our work with them makes it very clear that the more successfully they orient leadership to the power of resilience, the more successful their implementation is. We do this, we also support this by equipping managers. They are our front lines today. They are your linchpins. But let's remember, they are also feeling the pressure. We must support them. We must train them, empower them to reinforce this work across their teams. They are an essential link in holistically building your culture. We do this broad-based, coordinated, and consistent communications. We walk the talk, and that's how we make the organization become resilient. And resilience must become part of every talent development strategy, not a measure, not just a measure, not a way of filtering out people. It's got to be a goal. It's got to start with onboarding, in leadership development, in training for inclusivity and diversity. And lastly, the analytics and the insights. Organizations and leaders need enterprise-wide, real-time, predictive, preclinical analytics and insights that spotlight what's going on with people, your people. Detail about strategic subpopulations, benchmarking, and decision-making tools to help you understand where you have risk in terms of change readiness, empathy, confidence, and how do your teams align to your mission and your values. In summary, no doubt the last 16 months has caused a tipping point in awareness. There is a need for a new approach. As I said earlier, meQuilibrium was built on the vision that inoculating people with resilience would have a lasting protective effect on the workforce and on the organization. In fact, the last 16 months showed us that we were on the right track and proved beyond doubt that resilience is critical. What we do works, and these truths were forged through the fire of this situation. Developing organizational resilience is easy to say, not for me. Developing organizational resilience is easy to say, but difficult to deliver. It needs strategic definition and a systematic approach to implementation. Today, we all need nothing short of an intelligent, adaptive system that can cut through complexity and give you and your organization the anticipation advantage. A data-driven system that allows you to prepare your workforce for threats and change, data that can assess risk, that early warning system which continually scans for threats, identifying risks and gaps, AI-driven science and technology that can deliver personalized intervention, both to reduce and to further mitigate risk. Support to embed resilience and agility into your culture, integrated with purpose and values, talent strategies, and communications. Insights your leaders will respond to at your fingertips. A cohesive, enterprise-wide system of solutions, scientifically proven to develop resilience within your workforce. As I said, developing organizational resilience is easy to say, but difficult to deliver. It needs strategic definition and a systematic approach to implementation. We've covered a lot of ground since the Apollo 13 story. It's 51 years later, and NASA is still demonstrating stunning organizational resilience. This past February, we saw the effects of an organization that is continually committed to working on their resilience. They live their mission, and their sense of purpose is to NASA and not any particular project that has given them, and that has given them great agility. Making it possible to adjust to new economics and realities, now using a private space model, the SpaceX, to transform astronauts to the space station. Look, I am an optimist. I'm optimistic. When we work together, we can always make the future better. And this diverse, resilient team celebrating successfully landing the rover Perseverance on Mars and then the deployment of a helicopter is an astounding example of resilience and a great way to close. Watch with me, please.
Touchdown confirmed. Perseverance safely on the surface of Mars, ready to begin seeking the sands of past life. At this point, the descent stage has flown away to safe distance. Perseverance is continuing to transmit direct through Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter to Earth.
Oh my God.
I thrive on hearing all of your stories. And if you want to talk to me about this and what we've talked about today and what you all are doing, please reach out to me. And thank you.